Cool. So this is Video World. This is Josh Stevens. He's going to be full-time in just a little bit. This is Stephen Coxon. He's one of our video systems engineers. And I am Trevor Day. So it looks like we're online here. We're going to begin in just a minute here. There's Josh. There he is. Video feedback. Okay. So this is our video production room. So I think we're just going to kind of give you guys a general overview, and then we'll kind of start Q&A here in just a second. But this is it. So this is our control room. We have the two multi-viewers up here right now. We're playing back a message from Matt 2 weekends ago. And then this is the switcher board that we have right here. So do you want to kind of give them an overview, and then I can if you guys have questions as we go, I can ask our senior video systems engineer as we go.
Sure, okay. This switcher is a Ross Carbonite 2, and what that signifies is the two MEs, which are basically just two outputs. It also has just kind of in its software some other outputs that we can use that Ross calls mini-me's. So we can use them, we just kind of lose two keys and you lose some other functionality, but in essence we have a 6 output switcher where we can do dissolves, keys, DVEs, anything like that. We can do all of that. But basically the way we use it is this controls, ME1 is our main screen in our worship center in our Flower Mound campus. So that's going to be what people see here locally. Matt's going to preach in front of that screen. So you can see, if you look at the preview one right there, I can change what's actually on the projector.
Here, so can we throw up...
Throw up what?
Let me throw up cam 2 here. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's our worship center. We're not going to take you out there, but so you can see it, and you can switch it now.
Yeah, so if we
so that's controlling the main
video feedback or front of house. I can switch to Chandler.
That's our big projector. You can't really see it.
Yeah, there's some Pixar. That's nice and bright.
Yeah, so that's what's normally behind Matt as he's preaching. And we can control that. Oh, great. Our boss is watching us.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, this is what's controlling that. Then, because we're also streaming to campuses, and we'll eventually post to video on our website later, this ME2 right here is what the campuses are going to see. So it's pretty much just going to stay on our ProPresenter feed on the projector behind Matt, and then we'll be switching cameras between camera 1 and 2. And occasionally we'll have 3 and 4 for special events, but camera 1 and 2 is pretty standard for us on a weekend. We will also be fitting in some lower thirds for this series. We have a bug, which is this it's called our I am series. Just kind of going over the I am statements Jesus makes in the Gospel of John. So that's just a little bug we have in our sermons. And then lower thirds as far as text, kind of slides to tell who's teaching, text quotes, anything like that.
So we have 3 other campuses that we're streaming to right now, which is Dallas, Plano, and Fort Worth. So they only stream for the message portion, so they do all the worship locally for the first 25 minutes. So normally we have a 25-minute countdown, which all the campuses can see that clock and go from there, which is all controlled from this lower third computer, which we were just talking about. So basically this ProPresenter 6 machine runs our lower thirds with an alpha keyer module that outputs to the lower third 2 inputs with the key and the fill up here. And so that's how we get that lower third. So that's how we put in for all of our campuses. That's how we get our scripture or titles or whatever else we're outputting. It also controls through the stage display. It outputs to our clock, and so that's what all of our campuses are seeing at the campus level, and so we control that by headers. So if we have start of service, and you click the start of service, and then it's this won't really work right now. Well, you could do start of stream because that's 11:43. So then in 2 minutes, that's when all the campuses would tune in, because we do everything local. Yeah, it's a 20-minute countdown for last weekend, and so that's kind of how that's working out. And yeah, so then we kind of jumped into the T2, so you can want to start there.
Yeah, so this is basically a remote control viewing of what's called a Grass Valley T2. And so 95% of the time, Matt's going to preach live. He'll be on stage in Flower Mound, and we'll use the cameras to stream into the campuses. However, I think this coming weekend, we are capturing him Saturday night, so he'll preach live Saturday night, and then he'll be at another campus on Sunday morning, actually one of our former campuses, our Denton church now. So essentially, we would record it in here, and then we put it in one of the playback channels, and we would just edit the in and out points, and instead of Matt walking out live, we would just hit play on the file. The campuses wouldn't know the difference. The only ones that would know the difference would be here in Flower Mound, because they would see Matt on our projector instead of live in the flesh.
Right.
So that's kind of our video, our main desk out here.
You want to hit? Yeah, I guess we can hit the Ajas back there.
Oh yeah, and these are just ways that we record our sermon feeds. So we've got 4 what are called Aja Key Pro racks. So we got a program, a clean feed, and then ISO feeds for each of our cameras. So we basically got 4 feeds for 4 services. So we're going to archive 16 feeds per weekend, just for whatever use down the road. So that's kind of how we record our sermons. This is recording just for playback, but this is more for archiving the footage.
Yeah, so we use that. Basically, that enables us to re-edit the entire sermon if we need to bypass what's going on at the switcher if anything messes up. And we record our entire system 720p 60, and that's mainly, well, you installed this, so you might want to talk about that more than I could. But
yeah, I mean, essentially at the campus level, we've never felt the need to go to 1080 because we're pretty far away from screens at most of our campuses. So 720 still looks great for us, and obviously we like the file size. It's a lot easier to archive.
And we'd have to redo a lot of different things in order to make our system even functional if we were going to upgrade any or go to a higher resolution.
So we could go to 1080i.
Right.
Like I know a lot of people, I think Benttree's there, I think Prestonwood's there. We just haven't felt the need to do that yet. We would actually have to install a new video switcher, new cameras, new basically backbone to our entire system if we wanted to go to 1080p or higher. So that's kind of where we're at with 720.
Yep.
So we'll go now to the kind of the backbone side of the video system.
If you have any questions, guys, feel free to comment them as we're going, even though it may be delayed.
It's a little noisier back here.
A little bit.
So yeah, these are basically all of our racks. So down here, as you see, you've got Ross Carbonite. This is the actual brain of our switcher. So that is basically the switcher. There's 24 inputs on the back, 8 outputs. We've got a little USB drive here for loading content. But that is the switcher. Everything you saw before is just the control surface. And then right above that, this Blackmagic Universal Video Hub 72, that is the backbone of our system. So all of our inputs run into here. All of our 90% of our outputs run into here. We've also got a patch bay for some random lines kind of run around our building. But this is where all of the routing is done. So any of our inputs would run into the hub, and then they would run out of the hub to the switcher. So it just kind of gives us the ability to take one input to 72 locations, or any other combination kind of therein. So we've essentially just got then a bunch of random gear back here. We've got screens to kind of monitor stuff. This is a Mac Mini running some digital signage locally in our building. This open gear rack right here is one thing that is vital to our campus streams. So essentially this is a frame where you can load cards, and then on the back it's got SDI or HDMI or kind of whatever custom plugs you want on it. But what we use these for is to take our SDI and embed audio onto it. So at the campus level, they're getting what's in this slot 4 right here. They're getting our program feed out of the switcher. We're embedding audio onto that, and that's what they will see at the campus level or any of our cry rooms, anything like that. So that's kind of how we're using, how we're embedding audio and transmitting it to our campuses. And then we've got a Blu-ray player down here. That's just something we leave live during the week so that we can keep our stream at the campus level just to test it if need be. And so these are kind of the switches, or the Grass Valley T2, that's this guy right here. The Key Pro racks, that's all of those that we explained earlier.
So basically we're controlling those 5 devices over here, just so we don't have to go back to the rack in order to control that, so our video tech can go over there. What is a cry room? A cry room is basically just where like families go in order. It's basically just like a nursing, like a mother's room that they go to nurse, except it's a family room where they go, like, so their kids can run around if they're out of control.
We'll just have a TV in there so they can see, be less of a distraction in service, but still hear the message, and they can still hear music and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then, so we've got the actual unit of the Grass Valley here. We're just connecting it out there.
A cry room does sound weird, though, if you just...
Cry room, nursing room, that's true.
Like, I mean, it sounds kind of like a torment room or like torture room.
Just sad, they just go in there.
Cry, yeah.
And then all of this over here is more of kind of how we archive our sermons, but we don't really get into that much. So,
yeah, so these are our camera control units, which we haven't really gone over yet, but that's how so the triax runs out to our cameras, and so everything comes back and hits these, and then it's dispersed from here. Do you want to talk about those at all? I don't know. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, we can go back out there to see the control units. But this is basically the brain of our cameras.
Yep.
So yeah, again, power, comm, everything is going to run to and from the camera that way. And then we have our RCP units, which are basically just remote control units. So we've got color correction in the white sphere, the black sphere. We've got iris, black levels, and then we've got 1,000 different functions, kind of once we go into the menus.
We can hit the archiving system after if you guys have more questions about that. We're like really still working through that. But yeah, we can talk about that after, Brandon.
So yeah, that's the remote control. And obviously we want our cameras to match as closely as possible. So this guy right here, it's a Harris
video.
It's a waveform monitor. It's
vector
a vector scope.
Yeah.
You can see the timeline. So this is kind of a waveform. Let's see. Let's go to next one. So this is the waveform for that slide.
I can't really get both of these. Okay. So you can see it changing. It's basically showing the exposure. If you guys have any, I mean, you basically need that if you guys have worked with any sort of color correction, and we're trying to basically want to make sure they match in broadcast quality and stuff.
So yeah, vector scope's going to show us the color. Waveform's going to be a lot of kind of the black levels, white levels. So you can see this one just went way towards the blue down here.
Are you live?
So essentially, that's how we're matching colors on our cameras. So we are going to, in order to calibrate cameras, we are going to put up a chip chart or a just a kind of a color chart in front of a camera. We're going to put it under our lighting on our stage, and then we're going to look at this vector scope and the waveform monitor to get our black and white levels and to get our colors to match as closely as we can.
Yeah. Cool. What's happening? I'm not sure what's happening.
Our boss is in here now.
This is, okay, so basically what we're doing right now, Brad, do you want to talk about the audio? You don't want to? You want us to try and explain this? All right.
So yeah, the audio console right here, it's basically how we feed audio to, again, the cry rooms, nursing rooms, our campuses. So we've got a feed from our front of house console. We've got a feed from the T2, which has 2 playback channels, so you got left and right there. We've got our Blu-ray player. We have an actual direct output from Matt's microphone. Runs through the console, doesn't run through an aux or anything, it's just a direct output out of his. Back here to us, and then we've got some crowd mics. And also one thing we've started doing recently is Spanish interpretation. So essentially, we'll pipe Matt into a room where we've got a microphone, and then there will be a guy or lady in there literally just interpreting what Matt is saying, and then we'll have packs at the campus level that they can check out and just kind of listen along as close as possible to translating what Matt's actually saying.
And we can show that room in just a sec. And we also have a mini fridge that has
Dr. Pepper
and
Go-Gurts.
Go-Gurts. It's gonna be awesome. I love you too, Matt Jameson.
Is he watching?
Yep. That's probably like half of our audience is just Village Church Dad. So this is where Spanish interpretation is. It should be just program. So I think. So that's just program off of, basically they just get whatever the campus is getting. Yes, Go-Gurt. It's awesome. So the Spanish interpretation person will sit back here and be able to see the sermons, see everything. We give them the notes, and then they're live interpreting what Matt is saying. We record it to this Zoom as a separate output from the mic so we can archive it for later. And then, so she's just back here interpreting at our 11:15 service. And that goes to all of our campuses, like Coxon said before. The other thing we do at our 11:15 service is captioning. So we have a caption person call in, and then they're live typing whatever Matt is saying, and basically it's just an output from the whatever is being output from the stream to a phone, and they just call in and live type it as it goes at our 11:15.
And then basically somebody would just on their iPod or iPhone, they would I think essentially just go to
a web URL,
browser,
yep.
URL, and then they could literally just on their screen see what Matt's saying. And we've got at our Dallas campus where I'm at most weekends, probably 10 to 12 people in one of our rooms
Just checking it out.
that are all on the app. They all sit together,
Yeah.
just kind of deaf or hard of hearing.
Yeah,
So-
and then we also do sign language at the 11:15 service too.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Jameson would probably know more about this than we do, but this is our edit suite. This is also where we have we actually just switched this over where we do any live streaming for our forums and stuff. We don't live stream our services, even though we very easily could, but we're not doing that right now because we want you to go to church locally, and so. Basically, it's not hooked up right now, but this would output a program feed, and then it would go out to the rest of everything else.
Yeah, it's the same Ultra Studio 4K that we're using for lower thirds on ProPresenter. We found we don't necessarily like everything Blackmagic does, but this is one of their more reliable pieces of gear that we've found so far. And so, yeah, it's $1,000, works great for us. It's a whole lot cheaper than a lot of other options. So yeah, in here we've got a Mac Pro, Genelec speakers, and then we are running Premiere. I don't really know what version this is. I don't ever get on it.
It's just the newest one, I'm guessing. Matt, you can pipe in here if you want to. I think that's pretty good overview. You can see this massive amount of. This is a mess. We probably shouldn't show you this, but that's all right. We're in the process of we're gonna redo it soon, so don't judge us too harshly. But it's a massive amount of cable, and it's just real fun. This is our camera stuff. You can't really see any of this. It's super dark. It's our archiving system. Yeah. So, do you guys have any questions about that stuff? We can go to archiving if you guys don't have any. I'm not sure how far behind this is, so I'm just going to kind of close this stuff. This is our storage. It's kind of a mess right now. I need to clean it up. Questions, guys? Questions? I don't know how far behind this is, so I don't know.
It's like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So we can go to archiving.
Just got a reminder that I'm supposed to do something. Okay. Well, so to start, you want to go over to this shelf and show them all of our.
Oh yeah.
So this is the original plan, or at least these are a bunch of 3 terabyte hard drives that are currently storing. So if this gives you guys any hope, this is what we're storing our old sermons on. So these are a bunch of 3 terabyte, just basically spinning discs. My wife wants to see my face. That's not going to happen.
This?
I'm sure she is. So that's what we're doing right now. And this is what we're transitioning to right now because that's unsafe.
Yeah, so essentially the problem with archiving the drives is they typically last between 1 and 7 years. Obviously, depending on use and depending on if the drive had a defect or anything like that. So it's just not a reliable way to archive. So what we've gone to, and we just made the investment earlier this year, it's a company called Zendata. And so this Zendata server is essentially what we use to archive. And then we went to what's called LTO6 tape. So you can see we've got a ton of tapes in there. It's two-sided, and then there's two tape arrays. And so each tape is, I think, like
2.5.
Yeah, 2.2, 2.5 terabytes of information. And it's literally just magnetic tape. And so when we archive it to this, tapes last for 50 to 60 years. So obviously much more reliable than a hard drive. And I think right now our capacity is...
It's like 580
terabytes,
yeah, something like
that. And so I think in our initial upload that we're in the middle of right now, I think we got around 480 terabytes, so we have to load onto these tapes. And so essentially what we do is we have an A and a B copy of every single tape. And so the A copy stays with us so that we can get the content anytime we need it. The B copy is, for us, going to go to a place called Iron Mountain Storage. And it's basically just an Iron Mountain where nothing is going to happen to our tape. If anything happens to the A copy, we've got the B copy. So it's just a fail-safe so we don't lose. For us, some of our most vital content being Matt's sermons and any of the content related to those.
Each service takes up about each weekend takes up about 1 terabyte, so that's all 16 feeds.
Mm-hmm.
And we're archiving all of those, so that's how much tape it takes up run.
Mm-hmm. And then we're also not just archiving weekend services, we're archiving
Video.
our graphic design, the videos that are made for weekends, we're starting the process of archiving all of that. So
yep.
We've got 6 years of sermons at 52 terabytes a year.
Yeah.
Plus a bunch of other data.
It's a lot.
So.
And then what we just installed too with this whole thing is it's basically what we're calling hot storage. This would be cold storage where it's kind of offline. This is hot storage, so this is where all of our, like Matt Jameson, who was commenting earlier, and Jesse, they're like live editing off of that, and so basically they connect into that, which goes to this 48 terabyte hard drive, and so they can all edit off the same thing, and that we're not having to like go between different drives. And then one thing we didn't hit was just the way that we get this digital signage and then program feed and then the clock feed to the rest of this campus is something that we're going to replace whenever it shows up. There are these ZV channel modulators, so we have 3 channels going to the rest of the building. One of them is program feed, so like anything that dials in channel 7 I think is program feed. Anyway, basically that's how the channels are being dispersed throughout the building. Yeah. I think that's it. Obviously this is all on, well not obviously, this is all on battery backups. Yeah, we're still very much in the middle of that, but all these are on battery backups, so if anything does happen, we have time to shut everything down. I think that's it.
Any
right?
questions?
Any questions? What are you replacing them with? What's it called?
It's a brand called ZV. So these are ZV Pro 280s, and essentially what they give us is the ability to take a VGA or a component in, embed audio on that, and then it modulates it to an RF signal. So we've got channels 3, 5, and 7 here in the building, and it's literally just basically a CCTV network.
So
the TV is just tuned into those channels.
So we're replacing them with, basically that's the only analog thing in our system, right?
One of the few.
It's one of the few. Anyway, so we're replacing those with SDI channel modulators because right now it's composite or component.
Well, yeah, there's one that's VGA, one that's component, and our channel 5 is composite.
Yeah, so
that's just kind of low-grade signals. So we're still sticking with ZV. We're just going with some models that have 2 SDI ends on each one. So we'll have 4 channels now. Just kind of waiting on them to arrive.
we have like a gear list, which actually I didn't even link to the old ones. I'm just linking to the new ones. So on that Facebook thing that I just posted, if you comment on there, I can email you that doc with all the links to everything that we've been talking about so far. So are you capturing all camera feeds and a mix of clean and dirty program feeds? So basically what we're capturing is this Aja, or one of them, is program, that's the top one, and then clean, so that means anything, it's basically the same as the program except with no lower thirds. Then this is just capturing cam 1 and this is just capturing cam 2.
And those are literally just like the SDI outs of the cameras.
Of the cameras.
So before they even hit the switcher.
Yep.
So they'd technically be a clean feed because they wouldn't have lower thirds, but
yeah. And those are just getting embedded with just the front of. It's just like there's.
They're getting the same audio that,
as everybody else.
Everyone here is getting the same audio.
Right.
It's just the video that's changing.
Right.
And those are done the same way through this open gear rack, that frame mount, where we're basically just giving 4 different SDI channels audio, and so that's program, clean, camera 1 and camera 2, and this program 1 also goes to the campuses, to cry room, nursing room.
And the other thing is that we haven't really hit on is the way that we're getting Spanish to basically all the campuses is through that embed 1 feed. So you can see here that the first two bars are basically just anything that's coming like from Mets or anything from front of house, and then that second one that's coming up is Spanish. That's why it's a little bit delayed. And then the channels 4 and 8 are those crowd mics, so that the so basically like if you wanted to turn up laughter or whatever is going on in the crowd. We don't have actually, which is going to be budgeted I think later this year. Each of our campuses don't have an 8-channel D embedder, they just have a 4-channel, so we're not really using the crowd mics right now, but we will be upgrading that eventually so that they can actually pull out just their crowd mics and use them if they want to.
They can mix that separately from Matt's feed.
Right.
If one campus likes the crowd out more or less, or kind of whatever they choose for that.
Yep.
So yeah, just basically the way we connect to the campuses, I don't think we've gone over this yet.
Yeah.
So this is just a good example. We've got fiber connecting between all of our campuses. So from our Flymont campus to our Dallas campus, we have 2 fiber lines that we are essentially renting from AT&T. That's not shared space with anyone else. We are the only ones that touch them. So one of those is just for the video stream, and so it's obviously the digital video signal. It's going to be SDI for us, and AT&T has basically provided us boxes that have SDI in and output fiber to their network. And so we've got 8 channels of digital audio on there. So again, 1 and 2 are kind of the left and right out of that Yamaha console that you guys saw earlier. Again, 3 is Spanish, 4 and 8 are crowd.
Yeah.
And then, that's essentially the campuses will eventually get all 8 channels of audio, and they can do with them what they want.
Yeah. As far as do we do the installs ourselves or do we use an installer? It depends on what it's for. So like if it's a small piece of gear that we can handle, we know obviously how all this stuff works, so we could do it. For the larger installs, I can talk about South Lake, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we have a South Lake campus coming online pretty soon, and so we're using an integrator to do like the original install, and an integrator did the original install for this.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much after they do the original install, we do pretty much install the other gear.
We'll do 90% of the work from there, except for major gear overhauls.
Right.
So when we installed the Ross Carbonite, they installed that because that was a huge upgrade for us. We didn't know much about the Carbonite just as far as its functionality. So 1, they installed it, and 2, they trained us on it.
Mm-hmm.
But like the ZVs that we'll be receiving hopefully this week, we will install those ourselves. Like we installed all the Ultra Studio 4Ks for lower thirds and live stream and kind of the more basic level installs, but there is a level of complexity where we do let the professionals handle that.
And the next thing was just what made you decide to go with the Aja as a capture versus a hyperdeck or something else? And you can probably answer that better.
So a lot of reviews have come out on the hyperdecks. I know they were super popular when they were brand new, just like their 8-in-1 switchers, kind of the standard Blackmagic switcher. they were super popular at first. They were the first thing to come out at that price point with that functionality. The problem was within a year to 2 years, they basically all just failed. So we had 6 8-in-1 switchers, and we have one that is still working. Just that series. That we've had television studios. None of them have failed. They're kind of finicky, but they still work. And I've got some of their new production 4K switchers, just in some of our overflow rooms, and they work great as well. It's just kind of that earlier series of
At the
stuff
time,
that
yeah.
Blackmagic first came out with. We've just seen a high failure rate for them, whereas Aja is kind of an industry standard, kind of like Ross or Sony or anything like that, where we just felt a lot more comfortable going with them, knowing it's going to work for the long term.
Especially at the time, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, we don't. If we have a problem with the capture, then obviously we can't archive that, and we don't want to lose an entire weekend's worth of sermons.
Which we
Which
there's
we never
been no
had.
yeah, there's no problem.
We've never had an issue with it.
Yep. What does the big red button do? Okay, so I don't even know how to explain this. It really is more epic than it looks.
It looks more epic than it is.
Yeah, right, that's true. Okay, so basically this just presses Z. It's programmed just to press Z, so we have a hotkey when you press this.
It literally just plugs in USB
it just plugs
into
in,
a computer.
It just hits Z, and what that does is we just have a hotkey that pushes it, and it starts our stopwatch. So when Chandler or when the bumper starts, we hit that, and it makes it seem like our jobs are more important than they really. But seriously, yeah. So that's what that does. It just basically tells the computer to press Z, and we. Yeah. When it is our 3D sermons coming?
For us, that'll be a never.
I want to do like Star Wars type stuff where he's like projected onto the stage. I think that would be cool. Yeah, so we have, I don't know, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. We have a God cam so we can see, so we can see what's going on the stage. It's just like one of those, I think that was one of the feeds. It's just a Marshall little, like, basically a glorified GoPro that has SDI out. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? Can wrap it up. We're playing out of our Blu-ray player Pixar shorts, so that just plays on a loop, which can be distracting to our volunteers at times, but it's good.
But it's also entertaining.
But it's also awesome, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions.
Yeah. So if you want that equipment list, you can just hit. I don't know what. I think it's Visual Church Media Group that I posted. Yeah, the Facebook thing. So if you have Visual Church Media, there it is. So I posted on there. If you have, do that. Do you all have a full band? Normally.
Yeah, for weekends, every campus
does their own thing.
Will have their own individual band.
Yep.
So we don't stream music or anything. Again, it's just
we don't
sermon.
record it either. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it'll be typical band for us is drums, bass, keys, 1 to 2 electrics, an acoustic, and 2 to 3 singers.
Yeah.
Typically, kind of like a small Hillsong.
We got a couch. That's like a new addition last week. And then what we were doing before this, we installed this Mac Pro, was we were running it like the recording separately, and so it was run off of like 3 different Mac Minis. So we just consolidated that recently too. Great. All right. I think we're out. Do you want to do that again? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. If you have any other questions, you can hit me on Facebook. Yeah.
I'm like Ron Swanson on social media.
Yeah. You'll never hear of Coxon again, only in this video.
Unless you come to the flower market.
Yeah. Right. All right. Thanks, guys.